You're living in a prison. You can't see the bars and you can't touch the walls, but you feel them every single day. You feel them when you drag yourself out of bed for a job you tolerate but do not really love. You feel them again when you scroll through social media, looking at perfectly curated snapshots of a life you're told you should want. And you feel them in those quiet moments, when a little voice inside whispers, "Is this it?" That nagging feeling is the first clue that something isn't right. What if that perfect life you've been chasing, the stable career, the mortgage, the 2 kids, and a white picket fence, since your dream? What if it's a cage, carefully built to keep you predictable, manageable, and just average? For generations, society has sold us a blueprint for happiness. Graduate, get a job, get married, buy a house, work for 40 years, retire, and then you can finally start living. But this blueprint is a trap. It's an invisible script, a social construct so powerful that most of us never even think to question it. In this video, we're going to pull back the curtain. We'll break down the very idea of a normal life, expose who benefits from it, and most importantly, show you how to see the bars of your own invisible prison and how to break free. Let's start by deconstructing what's been sold to us as normal. So what exactly is this normal life? It's a picture we all know because it's been painted for us since we were born. It's the story we see in movies, in commercials, on the news. It's the expectation baked into our education system and reinforced by our families, whether they mean to or not. The path seems simple enough. First, go to school. Not just to learn, but to get grades that get you into a good college. College isn't just for enlightenment. It's your ticket to a respectable, stable career. That career, usually a 9-to-5, gives you the steady paycheck you need for the next steps: marriage, a mortgage, and a family. You work hard for decades, climbing a ladder someone else built, saving for a retirement. You just hope you'll be healthy enough to enjoy. This isn't just a series of life events. It's sold to us as the only measure of a successful life. It's a formula. Follow it, and you're promised security, respect, and happiness. But where did this formula even come from? Is it some natural, universal path to human fulfillment? The answer is a hard no. The concept of normal is what sociologists call a social construct. That's an idea that only exists because we, as a society, agree it does. It's not a law of nature, like gravity. It's more like money. A piece of paper has no real value on its own, but it has value because we all agree it does. The normal life is the same. It feels real, but it's just a product of history and culture, and it changes all the time. What's normal today was unthinkable a few centuries ago. And what we consider normal might seem totally bizarre in another culture. Take the standard 9-to-5 workday. It feels like a basic fact of life, but it's a pretty recent invention. It started during the Industrial Revolution, when labor activists fought against brutal 12 to 16-hour factory shifts. Their slogan was, 8 hours labor, 8 hours recreation, 8 hours rest. Then, in 1926, Henry Ford brought in a 5-day, 40-hour work week. He wasn't just being a great guy. He figured out that rested workers were more productive. He also realized that workers needed free time to become consumers of the products they were making, including his cars. The 40-hour work week was later made official in the U.S. with the Fair Labor Standards Act of 1938. That act was designed for a manufacturing economy where one person usually supported the whole family. It wasn't designed for our globalized digital world or for the diverse families and needs we have today. And yet, here it is, the default setting for millions. Then you have the American dream, an idea that has been exported worldwide. Historian James Truslow Adams coined the phrase in 1931, but his original idea wasn't just about getting rich. He described it as a dream of a social order in which each man and each woman shall be able to attain to the fullest stature of which they are innately capable. It was about opportunity, not just stuff. But over time, especially after World War II, that dream got simplified and commercialized. It became all about consumerism. The house in the suburbs, the car, a life filled with new gadgets. An entire economic system was built on this vision, a system that needs predictable workers and hungry consumers to keep going. The normal life is the perfect training ground for both. It shapes you into a reliable employee and a lifelong customer. All while you're chasing a dream that was designed, at least in part, to keep the economic machine humming. It's a powerful story, but we have to remember, it's just that, a story. And any story can be questioned, rewritten, or thrown out completely. Now let's talk about how that story becomes a trap. The blueprint for the normal life is marketed as a one-way ticket to safety and happiness. But for a lot of people, it turns into a cage. It's a trap of conformity, a system that quietly punishes anyone who strays from the path and rewards everyone for being the same. Often, this comes at the expense of our true selves and our mental health. This whole process works through a couple of powerful psychological tricks: objectivation and internalization. They sound academic, but the ideas are simple. First, a social idea, like the right career path, gets objectified. It stops being seen as a man-made concept and starts being treated like a hard fact of life. It's just the way things are. Then comes internalization. We take these external rules and absorb them until they become our own inner voice. That societal pressure to get a corporate job doesn't just feel like it's coming from the outside anymore. It becomes your own voice telling you that's what you should want. You basically become your own prison guard. So who actually benefits from all this conformity? Well, mostly large-scale systems that need us to be predictable. Corporations need a stable workforce that's willing to do specific jobs in a rigid structure. They also need a reliable customer base that wants the same things and buys the same stuff. The normal life, with its focus on buying things to prove you're successful, is the perfect engine for consumer culture. Governments also find it easier to manage a population that follows a predictable path: school, job, family, house. That path makes for a more stable, taxable society. The system is built for efficiency, not necessarily for individual fulfillment. The sneakiest part of this trap is how it chips away at our identity. The constant pressure to fit in can make you feel like you've lost yourself. When you're always pushing down your own passions and quirks to meet someone else's expectations, your self-worth starts to fade. You feel like an actor playing a role instead of the author of your own story. This creates a painful gap between who you are and how you live. It leads to a life that feels empty because it isn't really yours. This gap has serious consequences for our mental health. Trying to force yourself down a path that doesn't feel right can lead to chronic stress, anxiety, and depression. Psychologists point out that constantly compromising your own needs to conform can create deep resentment and frustration. This isn't a personal failure. It's a perfectly natural reaction to living an inauthentic life. It's the pain of your true self, trying to break free from a lifetime of conditioning. When you feel that burnout or quiet desperation in a life that looks perfect from the outside, it's not because something's wrong with you. It's because you're caught in a system that wasn't designed for your unique spirit. This framework also creates a paralyzing fear of failure. If there's only one right way to live, then any deviation of business that doesn't work out, a career change, choosing not to get married feels like a fundamental failure as a human being. This fear keeps us on the safe path even if it makes us miserable. We're so afraid of being judged as abnormal that we trade our shot at real happiness for the illusion of safety. We stay in jobs we hate because we're terrified of the instability that comes with chasing a passion. We stay in relationships that don't fulfill us because we're afraid of being alone. The result is a society filled with people living lives of quiet desperation. They have traded their unique potential for the comfort of being average. They follow the rules, check the boxes, and get to the finish line, only to realize they were running the wrong race. So the normal life doesn't just stop you from failing by society's standards. It actively stops you from succeeding on your own. It's a system that, by its very design, pushes aside anyone who thinks, lives, or dreams differently. Because diversity is a threat to the predictable machine. This is the real cost of the trap. Not just a lack of happiness, but the suppression of human potential on a massive scale. So how do we begin to free ourselves from this invisible cage? Recognizing the trap is the first and biggest step. But how do you actually get out of the cage? Breaking free isn't about impulsively quitting your job to live on a remote island, though. Hey, for some people it might be. For most of us, it's about a deep shift in how we think. It's about taking back control and consciously designing a life that fits your values, not the ones you were handed. Here are a few tools to help you start planning your escape. The first tool is radical self-inquiry. You have to become a detective of your own mind. For years, you've been running on default settings. It's time to look at the code. This means asking yourself some tough, honest questions and really sitting with the answers. No matter how uncomfortable they may be, they hold the keys to your personal freedom. Start with this. What do you truly want, not what you think you should want? If you could remove the judgment of your parents, your friends, and everyone on the internet, what would your perfect day look like? What makes you lose track of time? What are you genuinely curious about? Write it all down, without filtering. This isn't about being practical just yet. It's about reconnecting with your authentic self, the one buried under years of shoulds. Another great question is, whose dream are you living? Is that urge for a promotion or a bigger house really coming from you? Or is it about winning approval from others? Learning to spot the difference between what you want and what you want others to see is crucial. We're wired to want to fit in, but breaking free means learning to trust your own gut over the noise of the crowd. The second tool is to redefine your metrics for success. Society gives us a pretty short list of what success looks like. Money, a fancy job title, and material stuff. Those things are easy to count, but they're terrible measures of a happy life. You get to create your own dashboard, your own definition of success. Maybe success for you isn't a six-figure salary, but having total control over your time. But it's not about climbing the corporate ladder, but about building something of your own, even if it's small. Maybe it's not owning a huge house, but being debt-free so you can travel. Your metrics could be things like creativity, personal growth, deep relationships, or just plain peace of mind. Once you define these new metrics, they become your new compass. When you have a big decision to make, you don't ask, "What will people think?" You ask, "Which choice will make me feel more creative?" Or "Which path leads to more freedom?" It completely changes how you make decisions. You're no longer driven by fear and conformity. Instead, you're guided by your own values. The third tool is to embrace a growth mindset. This idea from psychologist Carol Dweck is the perfect antidote to the fear of failure that keeps so many people stuck. A fixed mindset is the belief that our abilities are set in stone. In this view, any failure is a permanent judgment on our worth. But a growth mindset is the belief that our abilities can be developed with effort and practice. This shift can be life-changing. Adopting a growth mindset totally reframes how you see failure. A failed project isn't a sign that you're a failure. It's just a data point, a lesson. It's a necessary part of learning. When you see life as a laboratory for experiments instead of a final exam, you have to ace. You give yourself permission to try new things. Take risks and wander off the beaten path. You understand the goal isn't to be perfect, but to always be evolving. This is essential because designing your own life is a messy process. You'll make mistakes. You'll take wrong turns. With a growth mindset, none of that is failure. It's all just part of the curriculum. You start to realize that the journey itself is the reward. Finally, the fourth tool is to curate your inputs. The pressure to conform comes from the information you consume, the social media you scroll, the news you watch, the people you're around. You can't build a new life if you're constantly staring at the old blueprints. You have to be ruthless about curating your environment. Unfollow the accounts that make you feel like you're not enough. Spend less time with people who drain your energy or mock your non-traditional goals. Instead, actively seek out new examples of what's possible. Read books by people who have paved their own way. Listen to podcasts that challenge old ideas. Find a community online or in real life of people who are also trying to define their own path. Surrounding yourself with different possibilities expands your own idea of what you can achieve. It makes the abnormal start to feel normal. Breaking free isn't a single, dramatic explosion. It's a quiet, steady process of questioning, defining, and building. It is the art of becoming the architect of your own soul. This journey of tearing down and rebuilding is deeply personal. I'd love to know. What part of the normal life script have you started to question the most? And what's one new metric of success you want to start living by? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Reading what other people are going through is one of the best ways to realize you are definitely not alone in this. For centuries, we've been handed a one-size-fits-all map to life. It's told that if we just follow the roads, we'll end up in the promised land of happiness. But we're starting to see that this map doesn't lead everyone to the same place. For many, it's a dead end of conformity and quiet regret. The normal life is one of the most powerful stories ever told. It's an invisible prison that shapes our choices, limits our dreams, and convinces us that its bars are actually a safe and comfortable home. But the truth is, this story is arbitrary. It's an idea, and you don't have to buy into it. Challenging, it isn't about rejecting society or responsibility. It's about taking back your right to choose. It's about having the courage to listen to that quiet voice inside you that knows there's more to life than just following a pre-written script. It's about running a grand experiment with your own life to figure out what truly makes you feel alive. The ultimate freedom isn't freedom from work or responsibility. It's the freedom to define those things for yourself, which is the freedom to be the author of your own story. So the question is no longer, am I living a normal life? The real question is, and always should have been, am I living my life?